Welcome to War Bios, the podcast that delves into the most pivotal conflicts in history, where strategy, leadership, and circumstance collide. I'm your host, General Biography, and today we're going to explore one of the most decisive battles of World War II, the Battle of Kursk. The origins of this epic battle can be traced back to the aftermath of the Battle of Stalingrad in February 1943, where the Soviet Red Army delivered a crushing blow to the German Wehrmacht. As the Soviets began their westward advance, they reached the Don River and established a significant bulge in the German lines around the city of Kursk, situated in the western part of Russia. This salient, which stretched for over 150 miles, would become the focal point of one of the largest tank battles in history. In late April 1943, Hitler and his generals began planning Operation Citadel, a massive assault aimed at encircling and destroying the Soviet forces within the Kursk salient. The Germans assembled a formidable force, comprising over 3,000 tanks, 10,000 artillery pieces, and nearly 2 million soldiers, all poised to strike at the heart of the Soviet defenses. The plan called for a pincer movement with two main thrusts, one from the north, led by the 9th Army under General Walter Model, and another from the south, led by the 4th Panzer Army under General Hermann Hoth. As the Germans prepared for their assault, the Soviet Union was busy reinforcing its defenses. Stalin had appointed General Georgy Zhukov as the overall commander of the Soviet forces on the Eastern Front, and he had been tasked with preparing a comprehensive defense plan to counter the German offensive. The Soviets had assembled a massive force of their own, comprising over 1 million soldiers, 3,000 tanks, and 20,000 artillery pieces, all dug in behind a series of fortified lines. The Soviet defenses were designed to be deep and flexible, with multiple layers of trenches, bunkers, and minefields. The Soviets had also developed an innovative tactic called the defense in depth, where they would allow the German forces to penetrate their outer defensive lines, only to be funneled into killing zones where they could be destroyed by artillery and tank fire. This tactic would prove to be highly effective, as it allowed the Soviets to conserve their strength while wearing down the German army. As we explore the historical background of the Battle of Kursk, it becomes clear that this was not just a battle between two armies, but a clash of ideologies and military strategies. The Germans were determined to regain the initiative on the Eastern Front, while the Soviets were resolute in their defense of the motherland. The stage was set for one of the most pivotal battles of World War II, with the fate of the Eastern Front hanging precariously in the balance. The German army, with its reputation for tactical brilliance and operational excellence, was about to clash with the Soviet Union's formidable defensive capabilities and strategic resolve. The outcome of this battle would not only decide the fate of the Eastern Front, but also shape the course of World War II. As the Germans launched their assault on July 5, 1943, the Soviets were ready. The defense-in-depth tactic, developed by General Georgy Zhukov, proved to be highly effective. The German forces, led by General Walter Model and General Hermann Hoth, pushed forward with determination, but they were met with fierce resistance at every turn. The Soviet lines were designed to be deep and flexible, with multiple layers of trenches, bunkers, and minefields that slowed the German advance to a crawl. One of the most significant battles took place in the north, where the 9th Army, led by General Model, clashed with the Soviet Central Front, commanded by General Konstantin Rokossovsky. The Germans threw everything they had at the Soviet lines, including their elite panzer divisions, but the Soviets held firm. The battle raged on for days, with both sides suffering heavy losses, but the Soviets refused to yield. In the south, the 4th Panzer Army, led by General Hoth, faced equally fierce resistance from the Soviet Voronezh Front, commanded by General Nikolai Fyodorovich Vatutin. The Germans made some gains, but they were unable to break through the Soviet lines. The battle was a war of attrition, with both sides trading blows and neither gaining the upper hand. The turning point of the battle came on July 12, 1943, when the Soviets launched a counterattack against the German forces in the north. The counterattack, led by General Rokossovsky, caught the Germans off guard and pushed them back. The German army was unable to recover from this blow, and their offensive began to falter. As the battle raged on, the Soviet Union's strategic resolve and defensive capabilities proved to be too much for the German army. The Germans suffered heavy losses with over 50,000 casualties and the loss of hundreds of tanks and aircraft. The Soviets also suffered significant losses, but they were able to replace their losses and continue fighting. The Battle of Kursk was a decisive victory for the Soviet Union, marking a major turning point on the Eastern Front. The German army never fully recovered from this defeat, and the Soviet Union began its long march towards Berlin. The battle also marked a significant shift in the balance of power between the two armies, with the Soviet Union emerging as a dominant force. As we explore the human experiences that defined this epic conflict, it becomes clear that the Battle of Kursk was not just a clash of armies, but a test of endurance and resolve. The soldiers on both sides faced unimaginable hardships, from the scorching summer heat to the freezing winter cold, and from the constant bombardment to the brutal hand-to-hand combat. The battle also marked a significant milestone in the development of tank warfare. The Soviet Union's T-34 tank, with its sloping armor and powerful gun, proved to be more than a match for the German panzers. The Germans, on the other hand, were forced to confront the limitations of their own tank designs, which were no longer able to dominate the battlefield. The battle marked a major turning point on the Eastern Front, and its outcome would shape the course of World War II. The Soviet Union's victory was a testament to its strategic resolve and defensive capabilities, while the German army's defeat marked a significant decline in its fortunes. In the months following the battle, the Soviet Union continued to push the German army back, slowly but steadily advancing towards Berlin. The Germans, weakened by their defeat at Kursk, were unable to mount an effective counterattack, and their lines began to crumble. The Soviet Union's advance was marked by a series of fierce battles, including the Battle of Smolensk, the Battle of Kiev, and the Battle of Minsk. As the Soviet Union advanced, it became clear that the German army was on the brink of collapse. The loss of men and equipment at Kursk had been catastrophic, and the Germans were unable to replace their losses quickly enough. The Soviet Union, on the other hand, was able to draw on its vast reserves of manpower and resources, allowing it to maintain a steady momentum. The final months of the war saw the Soviet Union advance deep into Germany, with the capture of Berlin marking the ultimate defeat of Nazi Germany. The Battle of Kursk had been a decisive factor in this outcome, as it marked a major turning point on the Eastern Front and set the stage for the Soviet Union's eventual victory. The legacy of the Battle of Kursk can still be seen today, with its impact felt in modern warfare and military strategy. The battle marked a significant shift towards more mobile and flexible forms of warfare, with the use of tanks and mechanized infantry becoming increasingly important. The Soviet Union's use of defense in-depth tactics also became a model for future military planning, as it allowed for a more effective use of resources and manpower. The Battle of Kursk also had a profound impact on the development of tank design, with the Soviet Union's T-34 tank proving to be one of the most influential designs of the war. The T-34's sloping armor and powerful gun made it a formidable opponent on the battlefield, and its design influenced the development of tanks for decades to come. As we look back on the Battle of Kursk, it is clear that it was a pivotal moment in history, marking a major turning point in the war and setting the stage for the Soviet Union's eventual victory. The battle also marked a significant shift in the balance of power between the two armies, with the Soviet Union emerging as a dominant force. In the words of General Georgy Zhukov, the Battle of Kursk was a great victory for the Soviet people, and it marked a major turning point in the war. It showed that our army was capable of defeating the German army, and it set the stage for our eventual victory. The battle's impact can still be felt today, with its influence seen in modern warfare and military strategy. The bravery and sacrifice of the soldiers who fought in the battle will never be forgotten, and their memory will continue to inspire future generations. The Battle of Kursk was a testament to the strength and resilience of the human spirit, and it will always be remembered as one of the most pivotal battles in history. As the great historian John Keegan once said, the Battle of Kursk was a battle that changed the course of the war, and it marked a major turning point in the struggle between good and evil. That's all for today's War Bios. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I'm General Biography reminding you to keep marching toward victory.